Throughout the long and complex story of humanity, one theme repeats itself with striking regularity. It is the story of conquest. From the earliest days of our species, groups of people have sought to expand their reach, to claim new lands, and to control valuable resources. This fundamental drive has been a powerful engine of change, shaping the world in which we live today in countless ways. The desire for more land, more wealth, more security, more influence has propelled armies across continents and fleets across oceans. It is a story written in blood and stone, a recurring chapter in the annals of nearly every civilization. The motives behind this relentless expansion are as varied as the cultures that pursued it. For some, conquest was a matter of survival, a desperate search for fertile ground to feed a growing population or access to fresh water in an arid land. For others, it was driven by the pursuit of immense power and prestige, the ambition of rulers to forge vast empires. The acquisition of resources, gold, silver, timber, iron, has also been a powerful catalyst for conflict and territorial gain. Influence, too, has been a key driver, nations seeking to spread their ideology, their religion, and their way of life across the globe. This endless cycle of conquest and expansion has left an indelible mark on our planet. The very borders that define our modern nations are often the direct result of ancient battles and long-forgotten treaties. The languages we speak, the religions we practice, and the cultures we cherish have been spread, mixed, and sometimes erased by the movements of victorious armies. The great monuments and sprawling cities of the ancient world stand as testaments to empires built through military might. Understanding this history is not merely an academic exercise. It is essential to understanding the political fabric, the cultural fabric, and the social fabric of our contemporary world. In this exploration, we will journey through the epochs of human history to witness how conquest has drawn and redrawn the map of the world. We will investigate how the methods and motivations for expansion have evolved over millennia, from the tribal clashes of early humans to the global empires of the modern age. Our journey will be guided by verifiable historical scholarship, utilizing maps and era-appropriate visuals to bring the past to life. We will see how the quest for dominance has been a constant force, shaping the physical boundaries of nations, but also the very identity of humankind, leaving a legacy that continues to influence our lives today. Long before the rise of kings and empires, the seeds of conquest were sown in the soil of our earliest societies. For our distant ancestors, survival was a daily struggle, a relentless competition for the finite resources that nature provided. Groups of hunter-gatherers and early farmers vied for control of the most fertile river valleys, the richest hunting grounds, the safest shelters. This was not conquest for glory or empire, but a primal, fundamental drive for security and sustenance. As human populations grew, so too did the pressure on these essential resources. A piece of land that could comfortably support one small band became a prize to be fought over by many. This competition inevitably led to conflict. Archaeological evidence from the prehistoric era, scattered across the globe, tells a silent but compelling story of this early violence. Skeletons unearthed from ancient burial sites often bear the grim markers of a violent end. Skulls fractured by blunt force, bones pierced by the sharp points of flint arrowheads or spears. These silent witnesses offer a stark glimpse into a world where territorial disputes were frequently settled through brutal, face-to-face combat, a pattern that would define human interaction for millennia to come. The act of defending a territory or seizing it from another group fostered a stronger sense of collective identity and cooperation within the community. The US versus them mentality began to take root. The leaders who emerged in these conflicts were often the strongest, the bravest, or the most cunning warriors, laying the groundwork for future systems of social hierarchy and leadership based on martial prowess. The tools of this nascent conflict were simple but effective, fashioned from the materials at hand. Stone axes, sharpened wooden spears, bows with flint-tipped arrows became the primary instruments of both hunting and fighting. There was little distinction between the tool used to bring down an animal and the weapon used to fell a human rival. The struggle for land and resources was a matter of life and death, And these early conflicts established a crucial precedent. That territory could be taken and held by force. This fundamental realization would echo through the ages, escalating in scale and sophistication as human societies grew more complex. The transition from a nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle to settled agriculture marked a turning point in the history of human conflict. Farming allowed for larger, denser populations, but it also tied people to the land in a way they had never been before. A field of ripening grain, a herd of domesticated animals was an immensely valuable asset, but also a vulnerable one. This new reality created a powerful incentive to protect one's settlement and its resources from outsiders. The response to this threat was one of the most significant innovations in the history of warfare: the construction of fortifications. Across the ancient Near East, the Levant, Mesopotamia, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of the world's first fortified settlements. The famous walls of Jericho, dating back over 10,000 years, stand as a monumental testament to this new defensive mindset. These massive stone barriers, complete with a formidable tower, were not built for ceremonial purposes. They were a clear and imposing statement to any potential raiders. They declared that the community within was organized, determined, and prepared to defend its home and its livelihood. The emergence of fortified cities fundamentally changed the dynamic of conflict. Warfare was no longer just about scattered skirmishes in the open field. It now involved the complex challenges of siegecraft. An attacking force could no longer simply sweep in and seize resources. They now had to find a way to breach, scale, or starve out a defended settlement. This, in turn, spurred military innovation. Attackers developed tactics like using ladders, building earthen ramps to overcome walls, while defenders reinforced their gates, built watchtowers, and dug moats. This escalating arms race between offensive and defensive strategies became a central theme in the evolution of organized warfare. The rise of these protected urban centers had profound social and political consequences. Within the safety of the walls, populations could grow, crafts could flourish, and trade could be conducted with greater security. The city became a hub of power, wealth, and culture. The leadership required to organize the construction of defenses and to command the city's warriors naturally evolved into a more formal and permanent system of governance. Priests, chieftains, and eventually kings rose to prominence, their authority often intertwined with their role as military commanders and protectors of the city. In this way, the wall that kept enemies out also helped to forge the first centralized political states within. The age of competing city-states in Mesopotamia gave way to a new political reality: the empire. This revolutionary concept, a vast state forged from the conquest of many different peoples, found its first great architect in Sargon of Akkad. Rising from obscure origins around the 24th century BCE, Sargon embarked on a series of unprecedented military campaigns. He subdued the powerful Sumerian city-states one by one, uniting Mesopotamia under a single ruler for the first time. His conquests were not mere raids for plunder, they were systematic acts of political consolidation. Sargon's ambition fundamentally altered the scale of political possibility. Centuries after the fall of Akkad, a new power rose in northern Mesopotamia that would take the art of conquest to a new level of ruthless efficiency: the Assyrian war machine. Beginning in the early 1st millennium BCE, the Assyrians built a military force that was unmatched in its time, an engine of war that became legendary for its organization, its technological superiority, and its sheer brutality. Where the Assyrians truly excelled was in the art of the siege. They developed a sophisticated repertoire of siegecraft techniques. Their military prowess was amplified by deliberate psychological warfare. Royal inscriptions and palace reliefs celebrated brutality. This calculated cruelty was designed to break the will of their enemies. To control their vast empire, the Assyrians also practiced a policy of mass deportation. This policy served multiple purposes. It broke the local ties. It supplied skilled labor, and it helped to create a more homogeneous, mixed population. The Assyrian model of rule through terror was effective. but it bred resentment. The next great power to dominate the region, the Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great, pioneered a radically different approach. Beginning in the mid-6th century BCE, Cyrus and his successors embarked on a campaign of conquest, creating an empire that was, at the time, the largest the world had ever seen. The genius of the Persian system lay in its combination of large-scale military conquest with an unprecedented policy of administrative tolerance. Unlike the Assyrians, the Persians generally allowed their subject peoples to retain their customs, their languages, and, most importantly, their religions. To manage their immense domain, the Persians developed a highly sophisticated administrative system. This wise policy encouraged conquered elites to cooperate, ensuring a cohesive and well-managed state. In the 4th century BCE, it was his son, Alexander, who would unleash this force. His real aim was to conquer the known world. Alexander moved with speed and audacity. At Granicus, at Issus, and at Gaugamela, he shattered Persian armies. He used combined arms brilliantly, his companion cavalry and his phalanx infantry. He often led the decisive cavalry charge himself, striking the enemy command, causing panic and collapse. At the Hyphasis River in India, his veterans refused to march further. Alexander reluctantly turned back. A key part of his strategy was the founding of new cities, designed to be beacons of Greek or Hellenistic culture. Following Alexander's untimely death, his empire fractured as his generals fought for control. Yet, while his political empire disintegrated, his cultural vision endured. This process, known as Hellenization, saw Greek culture spread and interact with the ancient traditions of Egypt, Persia, and the Near East. As the Hellenistic kingdoms vied for power in the East, a new force was methodically rising in the West: the Roman legion. The legion was a masterpiece of military organization, composed of professional, long-service citizen soldiers who were rigorously trained, who were heavily armed, and who held unwavering loyalty to their eagle standard. Roman conquest was also a triumph of engineering and logistics. No matter how deep in enemy territory, the legion ended each day inside a secure fortress. Through this system, Rome conquered the Italian peninsula, defeated Carthage, and turned east toward the Hellenistic kingdoms. Once a territory was subdued, a sophisticated system of administration was put in place. They built an astonishing network of paved roads. Rome developed a unique and evolving policy of extending citizenship, transforming it from a realm of conquerors and subjects into a commonwealth of Romans. The ultimate result of these strategies was the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, a legacy that endures to this day. Following the collapse of Roman authority in the West, a new powerful force for conquest emerged from the Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century, driven by the recently established faith of Islam. United by religious conviction, Arab armies swept out of Arabia with astonishing speed, conquering the entirety of the Sasanian Empire and seizing the Byzantine province of Syria, Palestine, Egypt. The caliphates became immense centers of trade, scholarship, and culture. Cities like Damascus, Baghdad, Cordoba grew into some of the most advanced urban centers in the world. Arab scholars preserved and expanded upon the scientific and philosophical knowledge of the classical world, creating a new civilization that would be a dominant force in world affairs for centuries. In the early 13th century, a force of unprecedented scale and ferocity erupted from the steppes of Central Asia, led by Temujin, who would become Genghis Khan. Every Mongol man was a warrior, trained from childhood to ride and to shoot a bow from horseback with deadly accuracy. Their conquests would redraw the map of Asia and Europe. At its zenith, the Mongol Empire was the largest contiguous land empire, stretching from the Pacific Ocean to the borders of Central Europe. Despite initial destruction, consolidation brought relative stability. The Pax Mongolica. The Mongols secured the Silk Road trade routes. This allowed rapid communication and safe travel for merchants, missionaries, and diplomats across Eurasia. That security fostered unprecedented exchange between East and West. Gunpowder, the compass, and printing moved from China to Europe, changing world history. As the Mongol Empire fractured, a new era of conquest was dawning on the western edge of Eurasia. European nations, led initially by Portugal and Spain, embarked on a period of maritime exploration that would transform the globe. Key technological innovations made long-distance ocean voyages possible for the first time. The caravel ship, the magnetic compass, improved navigational charts. The Spanish funded Christopher Columbus in 1492. His accidental arrival in the Americas opened two continents to European conquest and colonization. The ensuing conquests were intercontinental. The Spanish conquistadors, like Hernán Cortés in Mexico and Francisco Pizarro in Peru, faced empires with populations in the millions. Their victories were due not to numbers, but to a mix of factors: steel weapons, armor, firearms, horses. But the most potent, unintentional weapon was disease: smallpox, measles, influenza. These pathogens swept through indigenous populations, causing devastating pandemics and a staggering demographic collapse, making it vastly easier for small bands of European conquerors to seize vast territories. Following the initial conquests, other European powers joined the race for overseas empires: England, France, the Netherlands. This new conquest was driven by economic motives. Colonies existed to enrich the mother country by providing raw materials and by serving as captive markets for manufactured goods. In the Americas, vast plantation economies were created, worked, on a massive scale, by enslaved Africans transported across the Atlantic. The brutal Middle Passage. In Africa and Asia, Europeans often ruled indirectly. They co-opted local leaders and established trading companies to control territory and resources. In the 20th century, the long tradition of overt territorial conquest began to decline. The sheer devastation of industrial warfare made such ventures prohibitively costly. The rise of international law, embodied in institutions like the United Nations, created a new global consensus against the acquisition of territory by force. Decolonization swept across the globe, dissolving the great European colonial empires and birthing dozens of new independent nations. Yet the legacy of conquest remains deeply embedded in our world today. Political borders are rarely natural or peaceful. Scars of past wars, lines drawn by victorious armies, arbitrary divisions by colonial administrators. Languages followed legions and administrators: English, Spanish, French, Arabic. Economic inequalities define our world. The persistent gap between global North and South continue extractive colonial-era relationships. To understand the present, we must understand this history of conquest. It is a story of human ambition, innovation, and brutality. It explains the tapestry of cultures, languages, identities. It sheds light on sources of contemporary conflict and global inequality. The map was not discovered. It was made, drawn and redrawn, century after century, by marching armies and emperors' ambitions. Acknowledging this difficult but essential history is the first step toward navigating the complex geopolitical and cultural landscapes they left behind for us to inherit.